Great. Hi, Julius. Good afternoon. Okay, so today we have Dr. Julius Ecuru with us. He's the head of the BioInnovate Africa program. The session's topic will be how to increase the value of intellectual assets in an academic and research setting. Dr. Julius Ecuru is the program manager, as I mentioned, of the BioInnovate Africa, a regional program at ICIPE, which enables scientists in East Africa to link biological-based research ideas, inventions, and technologies to business and the market. Dr. Ecuru is a part of the PASET Regional Scholarship and Innovation Fund's senior management team and is involved in the implementation of the research and innovation components of the RSIF. He is an interdisciplinary scientist and researcher working on issues related to technological innovation and sustainable industrialization in Africa. His focus is on the theory of and practice of sectoral and regional innovation systems, innovative clusters, and innovation policies, especially in health, agriculture, and environment that foster sustainable development. Dr. Ecuru also contributes to scholarly works in the chemical and bioengineering sciences and supports regulatory science and research ethics capacity development. His current research interests include interactive learning models, which make universities, firms, and related organizations more productive and catalytic centers for innovation, growth, and social development. He received his Bachelor's of Science in Chemistry, Honors and Masters of Science in Environmental Science from Makerere University in Kampala, and a PhD in Technology, Technoscience Studies, Innovation, with a focus on innovation systems and development from the Blekinge Institute of Technology in Sweden. Dr. Ecuru is also a Fogarty Bioethics Fellow, having received a postgraduate diploma in International Research Ethics from the University of Cape Town in South Africa. Julius, welcome. We're really happy to have you close off the year, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sagal, for that very, very elaborate introduction. It's very, very rare that I get such introductions. And good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. So I'm very, very fortunate or privileged to be speaking to you at this 6th RSIF monthly webinars. And this is the end of the webinars in 2020. And I would like to thank each one of you for having gone through this difficult year because of COVID-19. I also hope that we will do our best to cross over into the new year healthy and safe. So today, I will be sharing with you, a very interesting topic that is quite dear to my heart. And this is how to increase the value of intellectual assets in an academic and research setting. So basically what I want out of this seminar today is for all of you who are researchers or academics to have a very good tool of how you can manage your intellectual assets. And we say intellectual assets because, you know, an asset is something that you can easily turn into money to meet your daily needs or your investment ambitions. So I would like this session to be very interactive, and feel free to pause, ask a question at any time. So, okay. So to begin with, let me just tell you a little bit about BioInnovate. Sagal has introduced me so well. But BioInnovate, as you can see on the screen there, is a regional science and innovation-driven initiative, which is fostering the development of a bioeconomy in Eastern Africa and by extension, all of Africa. And by bioeconomy, we mean the use of scientific knowledge to add social and economic value to biological resources. And through this, we create jobs and increase household incomes. So BioInnovate Africa is currently enabling about 300 plus scientists in Eastern African universities, research institutes, and private companies to turn or translate their innovative ideas, technologies, or inventions into practical uses, but mainly into businesses. And the photo of the gentleman you see on the screen there is our monthly photo. It's the photo of the month of December 2020. And this gentleman is using a vitamin A enriched sweet potato as an ingredient for making chapati. So for those of you who are from Eastern Africa or who visit Eastern Africa, chapati is a delicacy in this part of the world. And we are trying to make it more nutritious by using vitamin A enriched sweet potato. So I would also like to mention that having introduced BioInnovate, I do have a present here, very nice memorabilia. I have three copies. This is a notebook. And Sagal will help me to choose at the end of the seminar or webinar who will receive at least one of these three. And then we shall mail it to you wherever you are. So let's begin now our discussion by asking ourselves what our industry is. It's very important to know what your industry is. And by industry here, I mean a cluster of goods and services that are traded. These are goods that you produce and you sell. So that's what we call an industry for purposes of this webinar. Let me start here, and I would like you to contribute. Do you see this picture on the screen? Please give me a shout if you're seeing it.
I see a giraffe.
No. Sakal, I would like the participants. So who else is seeing? Alice?
I can see.
Yes, I can see.
You can see a giraffe. Okay, so if you think about the giraffe and the people who come to view it, you know, like tourists, the people who keep the game parks and so on and so forth, what kind of industry would this be?
Tourism and wildlife.
Okay, tourism and wildlife. Who said that? Just tell me your name.
This is Alice.
Alice, okay. Tourism and wildlife. Somebody else? Okay, so Alice, I think you got it. We could say this is the tourism industry, right? We all agree. The next one here. Do you see this picture? Humphrey Mabwi?
Yes.
What are you seeing in this picture number 2?
Yeah, in East Africa is Juakali sector.
But what are you seeing? What are you seeing in this picture?
The motorcycles and the riders.
Yeah, motorcycle and riders.
Yes.
So what do you think this industry could be? How could we call this industry? Somebody else could try?
There's a transport industry.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Who said that? What's your name?
My name is Harry Bleponi.
Harry?
Yes.
Harry from where?
From Ghana.
From
University of
Ghana.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so this is the transport industry. Thank you so much. It seems you people are just reading my mind. Okay, next, number 3. What about this one? This is the Nelson Mandela African Institution of Science and Technology in Arusha, very beautiful campus. If you think about the people here, researchers, academics, PhD students, and so on, what kind of industry would this be?
Education.
Education, who said that?
Fabian.
Fabian, from where are you?
I'm in Nigeria currently.
Nigeria, okay. And who else could give a try? Expand it a little bit beyond education.
Okay, I can go ahead.
Yeah. You tell me your name.
Research industry.
Research industry.
Yes.
And what's your name?
I'm Sami Florent from Burkina Faso.
Okay. Okay. Who else could try? Could we have a last trial?
Can I try?
Yes, please. Tell me your name and try.
It's a service industry.
Which one? Service.
Yes.
Okay, service. Nice try. Last one.
Can try. This is charity. This is the sector, education sector, science and technology.
Education, science and technology. Where are you from?
Kenya.
From Kenya. Okay, I think somehow you're all right, but I would like to say we call this knowledge industry, okay? So knowledge industry encompasses, of course, education is a service, mainly service industry, but it also includes research and so on and so forth. So for now, let's call this knowledge industry to give it the wide coverage that we deserve. And of course, the importance of knowing this as your industry, then you should also know the type of goods and services that you provide in this industry. Know who the stakeholders are, know who the competitors are, and so on and so forth. That's why we need to have this big picture. So I would like to just give you this to show us that the knowledge industry as we have it today is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. So on this picture you see here, I just got from the Global Innovation Index to show us the global investment in the knowledge industry in 2020. So I just picked the best, the top 4 countries according to the ranking in this Global Innovation Index. And you can see there Switzerland, Sweden, USA, and Netherlands. And then I also picked China and India because we kind of relate with them. And then of course, the ones you see down there are PASET countries, Rwanda, Senegal, Tanzania, Kenya. I just put there South Africa for comparison. But of course, these countries are different strength in terms of their economy. But what I really want us to focus on here is what I have carved here. If you look at the gross expenditure on research and development, so GERD is gross expenditure on research and development, which relates directly to the knowledge industry. Of course, education there, like some of you said, is part of this knowledge industry. But you can see that these countries invest quite significantly in R&D. You can see Switzerland 3.3, Sweden, China, and then of course when you come to Africa, it's slightly below 0.1%. But if you translate this into absolute amounts of money, you can see that just by these few countries alone, you have $1.4 trillion US investment in the knowledge industry. And that's just talking about research and development alone. So it is really important to know that we are operating in this highly, highly competitive industry, highly productive industry, and we need to give it the best. When you're in this industry, you need to produce the best goods, the best knowledge that will actually create value for somebody else or the users. So this is a lovely quote I like from former president of Tanzania. He said, and he's my namesake, Julius Ecuru. He said, intellectuals have a special contribution to make to the development of our nation. And this was, way back in 1973. Probably most of you were not yet born. And to Africa. And I am asking, this is what he said, and I am asking that their knowledge and their greater understanding that they should possess should be used. And again, I highlighted the word used for the benefit of the society of which we are all members. So Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, as we call him in this part of the world, really understood the value of knowledge. But what strikes me the most in this quote is, it was not knowledge for the sake of knowledge. He said, he wanted this knowledge to be used for the benefit of society. And you cannot use knowledge, you can't use knowledge until you package it in a form that can make it to be used. And that's what we want to discuss really this today. So if you look at this diagram, and I said here, knowledge is more valuable when it is packaged for use as an intellectual asset. So producing knowledge for the sake of it is good, but until we package it for use, that's when it becomes really, really valuable. So this is a typical diagram of an organization, and you can look at this from the different organizations that you come from. There are usually two types of resources that you get in this organization. You have what we call the assets, and then you have the capabilities. So assets you can transfer, you can trade, you can sell, you can buy. And then you have capabilities which are not easily transferable, because these capabilities are usually the skills we have, the experience, the expertise, the relationships, and so on. But on this other side, when it comes to the assets, you have the tangible ones, the ones you can feel, like buildings, equipment, money, and so on. And then you have the intangible ones, the ones that you cannot touch with your hands. And this is what we call the intellectual assets. Now, these intellectual assets are the most important, and they said they are the most critical for creating what we call a competitive advantage. Competitive advantage is where you compete in the market and you're better than your competitors in terms of the unique value that you provide to your customers. So that's the competitive advantage. And many countries, companies that have thrived actually and grown on the basis of their intellectual assets. So this is a very good point for us to know. Now, what are intellectual assets when we talk about this? So we said it is knowledge that is documented. Remember, Mwalimu said we need to have this knowledge used for the benefit of society. And I said that you cannot use knowledge until you package it for use. So knowledge, intellectual asset, is that knowledge which is documented, is defined, and can be traded. It's packaged. And this is how we package this knowledge. Maybe there are other ways, but this is the main form that we could package our knowledge. So the first here you see is a data set. And the data set here is a set of related information. So you can think about survey data, you can think about biobanks and so on. And then we also have methods. So this is a structured way of working that leads to a defined output. So you can think about a method for extracting something, maybe extracting essential oils, or a method of processing, maybe juice, or processing butter or something, or food. And then you also think about a model. So you could be developing a model, and the model here is a system that is used to describe or explain certain phenomena. We think about mathematical models, we think about computer models, we think about conceptual models, algorithms, and so on and so forth. But we also have design. So design is how you visually display an object or construction. So common one that we all know is architectural drawings or art pieces or motherboards of computers and so on and so forth. And then you have invention, which is very familiar to us and which is, I think, the dream of most of the innovators. So this is a new solution to a technical problem. And it could be like a new device. It could be a new drug. For instance, now we have this new COVID-19 vaccines. Those you could say are some kind of inventions. So are we okay until here? Just give me a nod if you're fine. Fabrice, are we okay?
Can I ask?
Fabrice? Penda, are we okay?
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So let's proceed. So this is, I just wanted us to discuss a little bit further on this by thinking about some practical examples. So this is one of the papers that was voted as the best publication of 2020 at ICIPE here where we work. And this was announced yesterday. So you can see in this paper, they were basically looking at how plants, and they were specifically looking at maize, for instance, how maize plants, get natural enemies for let's say pests that would, come to attack them. So it's what we call in science tritrophic interactions. So a plant to protect itself will attract a natural enemy of its predator. So this is what they did. I don't want us to go into the science of this, but if you can read this, you will see in this part where I've highlighted that they used a genome-wide association study of 146 maize genotypes comprising of land races, inbred lines, and commercial hybrids, okay? So 146 maize genotypes is what I would like you to pay attention to. And of course, through their genome-wide association study, using high throughput techniques of genotyping and sequencing, they were able to identify how the maize, different varieties of the maize plant protect themselves by attracting natural enemies of their pests. So that is really the gist. And you can see here, again, another part which I'm going to underline here, this one, their conclusion, basically. So they came up, they discovered that there were some specific markers within the different maize varieties that were actually responsible for this attraction. So, and then here they conclude that this type of markers, which they identified, can be used to facilitate the selection of indirect defense by maize breeders. So this facilitate is, we would say, is a method. So the maize breeders would use these findings, use this type of markers, and develop methods for breeding maize that can protect themselves against pests. So that is one example. So here we see a data set up here. 146 maize genotypes is a data set, and that is an intellectual asset. And also we see here a possibility of a method for maize breeding. That is also an intellectual asset. The next paper that also was voted best 2020 here at ICIPE yesterday, announced yesterday, was this one. Again, don't mind so much about the science here, but in a nutshell, this is a kind of discovery that scientists here at ICIPE made, that there are some mosquitoes, some kind of fungi or microbes that live in the gut of mosquitoes. And these microbes actually can block the transmission of the Plasmodium parasite, and therefore prevent somebody from getting malaria. So that is the whole idea. But you can see again here, where I'm going to underline is that, let me read it, as a microbe that impairs Plasmodium transmission, that is non-virulent and vertically transmitted, Microsporidium, MB, that's the name of the microbe, could be investigated as a strategy to limit malaria transmission. So you can see here, the strategy here really is the method. So having made this discovery, then we can design a method for controlling transmission of malaria using this Microsporidium. So that is the method. Here is the intellectual asset. And because of this, particular group actually have received additional funding, I think over $1 million recently, to continue their work in this area. So I would like now to move a little bit faster by looking at, again, another example here. So you all know that the 2020 chemistry Nobel Prize in chemistry was awarded to two very brilliant lady scientists, Emanuela Charpentier and Jennifer Doudna. And if you see here, they were awarded this Nobel Prize for the development of a method, here I've underlined, a method for genome editing. And this was, maybe most of you have heard of what we call the CRISPR-Cas9, but CRISPR-Cas9 is the type of genetic scissors that a number of scientists, researchers, especially those in the molecular biology, genomics area, can use to repair genes or some hereditary problems and so on. So it's a cutting edge kind of technology now that is in use. But you can see here, I think my main point here is that the Nobel Prize in chemistry was awarded to these two wonderful ladies for the development of a method for genome editing. So here I say then that the value of an intellectual asset is increased by maintaining an intellectual asset inventory. So most of you are doing very, very interesting, important work, but you can increase the value of your intellectual assets by maintaining this very, very simple inventory. And here, just from the example of this, we try to see how simple it is to use this inventory. So we see the name of the intellectual asset, the name of asset here is CRISPR-Cas9. That is the asset. The type is a method. So CRISPR-Cas9 is a method. And this is the asset. And then you can describe what this asset does. It's a genetic Caesar. You can also talk about what it's used for. It is used to cut DNA molecules at predetermined sites. And then you can also describe the users of this asset. Who are the users? Could be researchers, could be drug manufacturers in the case of this intellectual asset. Maybe this asset could be related to other type of assets, so you can also have that. And then of course, the last column here, you need to think about who are the owners of that asset. Now, this is important because we said earlier that an asset, intellectual asset, is something you can trade, you can sell, you can buy. And you can't do that if you don't know who the owner is. So this is a simple inventory that we can all keep to increase the value of our intellectual assets. So I would like to pause here and just do a simple exercise. I want a volunteer from you for us to work together and complete this part of the table. So can I have some volunteers? One volunteer. One volunteer, please. You'll just tell me what you're working on and we try to work this out with you. Can I select one? Martin Anson. Martin?
Yes, hello? Yes.
Hi, Martin. How are you?
I'm fine.
Are you willing to volunteer to complete this with me based on what you're doing or what you think is your intellectual asset?
I'll try.
You try?
Yeah.
Okay, then you just speak a little bit loudly.
Okay.
Okay, so tell me, what name of your asset?
Hello?
Hello?
Please come again.
Let's start with this column. What's the name of your asset? What are you working on?
Okay, at the moment, my research will be on the developing lead-free perovskite solar cells. So I'm looking at how I can stabilize these cells because they are unstable in the real-world conditions. So I'm looking at how we can stabilize them in real-world conditions. So I'll be testing their stability in real-world conditions.
Stable solar cells. Okay, is this what you're working on?
Perovskite solar cells.
Perovskites.
Yeah.
This is it, right?
Sure.
Okay, so what are you doing? Are you developing a method? Are you in terms of our asset here, in terms of this, what are you developing? Is it a method for stabilization? Is it a model? Is it a design? Is it an invention you're working on?
Well, okay. First, I'll try to synthesize some novel materials to see how they will behave in the atmosphere. And then I'll try to develop some prediction models to model the lifetime of the cells when they are used in the real world conditions.
Okay.
Mostly the ones that have been produced are all in the lab. So I'm trying to see how it can be extended to the real world.
Okay. So it looks like you're working on a model for stabilization, right?
For predicting the lifetime, if we are going to the model, then for predicting the lifetime of the solar cells.
Okay. So this is what you're working on. And maybe, so a model for prediction is what you're really working on. And so, is that right?
Yeah, that's one objective. So we can use this one.
Okay, so let's work with this for now. So in terms of this description of the asset, how would you, so anyway, we've kind of described it here. So we can say it's a model for a prediction model, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and how do you use this? What's the use?
Well, it will enable, let's say, solar cell manufacturer to be able to give out warranty life and then the lifetime of their cells when they manufacture. It should be able to help them predict, okay, when I give out this solar cell, I can give a warranty period of this because the model can predict the lifetime and also can give the end user the maximum life of the cell.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. And then you mentioned something here. You said it will give the manufacturer. Is it the solar cell manufacturers?
Sure. Manufacturers.
Okay.
Both the users and the manufacturer, but mostly it's the manufacturer that it will help because to enable them to know the life of their product so that they can give out accurate warranty periods.
Yeah. So this is great. And then relationship, is this based on some other assets? Is this based on some other assets that you know of?
Please, can you explain a little so that...
the relationship with other assets, are there, for instance, are you working this based on an invention or based on other models, or this is a purely new model?
Yes. It's based on, what do you call it? Accelerated life testing models.
Okay. Accelerated.
So it's a reliability engineering testing model.
Accelerated. So you're basically making an improvement.
Yeah, I'm using that model to be able to predict the life of this thing. So this is a general model. So I'm restricting it to the solar cells.
Okay, all right. Okay, fantastic. And then, so who will own this model? Is it you, a group of you, or?
Yeah, together with my supervisors.
Okay, Anston, who is your supervisor?
Okay, at the moment, Dr. Thomas Nangoda, University of Nairobi, and Prof. Muzembe, also University of Nairobi.
Okay, fantastic. So you can see, Anston, how this will help you. So when it comes to, you describing exactly what you do, then and for me, this is the most important part of the work that you're doing, that you're coming up with a model for predicting the lifetime of solar cells and their stability, in the field where they're applied. Okay? So I think because of time, let's stop with Anston. And Anston, thank you so much, I think, for answering this. We shall give you one of the BioInnovate memorabilia, and hope that you can use this model together with your colleagues. Maybe there are other things you're working on. You could be working on some methods, some inventions, and so on. So complete this at your free time. Okay, so just wanted to, thank you so much. I wanted to say that the intellectual assets can be protected And as you see here, these are data sets, methods, models, design, invention. You can protect this using intellectual property rights. So patents, if you're working with inventions, you can protect using patents or utility models. Or you can use trade secrets for those of you who are working let's say, in the medical area, or trademarks or plant variety protection, and so on and so forth. The only thing about this protection is it's a trade-off. Protection is the right that government gives you to exclude others from using your intellectual asset. But in return, you have to disclose. So you have to disclose. You have to disclose the information, and then the government will reward you by giving you exclusive rights to prevent anyone else from using your intellectual asset for a certain period of time. So that's the trick about protecting your intellectual assets. But you can also protect it in other ways, maybe in your organizations, through certain policies and different ways of working. So you can, usually from where you are, there are some resources you can use to manage your intellectual assets. You can use, if your organization, your university has an intellectual property policy or guidelines, you can do that. Here at RSIF, we are soon publishing an intellectual property manual, which can guide you into how you can use this, manage your assets. Some of you might be having intellectual property management committees or tech transfer or innovation offices. So these are resources that at your disposal, you can run to, and if you need some guidance. And the value of this, having your intellectual assets properly documented is that you can trade them, So you can write a book or publication, you can license to a business, and you can create your own business or your own company based on your assets. You can write a grant proposal. It makes it very easy for you to write a grant once you know exactly what your intellectual asset is. And of course, there are other uses as well. So here at BioInnovate, we work a lot with intellectual assets. And we have what we call our model for translating these assets into some kind of business opportunities. So we get scientists with assets, we pair them with existing companies, and then they can have their assets marketed. Or we can help them create their own companies based on their assets. And there are other uses, publications, collaborative projects, and so on. So I wanted to conclude and maybe have some short time for question and answer by saying that you can increase the value of your intellectual assets by maintaining an inventory of the assets. And I'll go back to this inventory as we open it up for discussion. And again, thank you, Armstrong, for providing us with your example for this. So thank you for your attention, and I would like to hand back to Sagal now.
Thank you, Julius, for that excellent presentation. It's fascinating to understand knowledge as a general, essentially almost a commodity, and figuring out ways to utilize that knowledge to make it meaningful for those that are producing it. So thank you very much. That was excellent. For all the participants, please feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions. I do see a question here, Julius, from Fabian Eze. He's an RSIF scholar, and the question is it possible to combine two asset types, for instance, method and a model?
Yes, I would rather that you split it like this. So on the first row, you can say this is a method. Then the second row is a model. So within one piece of work or one type of publication, you can have so many intellectual assets. So it is very possible. But don't combine, say method, just split them like this, and it will make your work easy. Thank you, Fabian.
Great, thank you. Any other questions, please feel free to chime in. Good morning, Jean-Baptiste. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, thank you, Sagar. And thank you for the presenter, for nice presentation. I would like to ask one or two questions. We see sometimes, for example, you are working on projects, you produce publications. So later you find that your method or the publication is making some money, or the journal they are producing money, or to access it, you have to pay some amount of money. So in that case, you have to protect your asset or your methods. Again, if you protect your method, or if someone wants to use it, for example, you develop a method to produce a kind of, let's take a kind of medicine. So one company wants to use that method, how they will know, how they will come to know that, or how will you make known your method or your result, or how will you make them known while you are still protecting, or you want to hide them it? Thank you.
Thank you, Jean-Baptiste. A very, very good question. So one thing is, do not be shy to publish. You know, in academia, you either publish or perish. So please, please strive to publish. However, before you publish, you know, as you're doing your work, as you're doing your research, populate this inventory. Have this inventory, because this inventory will help you to know what is my intellectual asset, okay? And before you publish, you can protect it. So there are ways to protect your intellectual asset before you publish. And publishing is good because then it will help people to know about your intellectual asset. So that is why, you know, journals publish, but in return, you get publicity, okay? And that is good. So I mentioned just briefly here, if you come here, you see, so when you need help, especially, and this is an advice I would give to all of you in your institutions, try to have this framework within the institution. Try to have like an intellectual property management committee, or technology transfer office, or innovation office, or whatever you call it. But this is an office which will help to market your intellectual assets, okay? So they are the ones to reach out to potential users. Remember that in this table, you see you have here, I don't know that you can see where my cursor is, you have the users, okay? So Anston, for instance, identified solar cell manufacturers as potential users of his model. So a tech transfer office would help to reach out to these manufacturers and tell them, look here, at University of Nairobi, we have a model that can help you to provide warranty for your customers. And that's how you start trading in your assets. So thank you very much, Jean-Baptiste.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Baptiste and Julius. We have a question, Julius, in the chat from Faith Njeru. She is an RSIF scholar, and the question is, does intellectual asset mean that you are making science as a business? And can it be unethical at some point when you have discovered maybe a drug that can help people, but companies are holding on to it?
Thank you, Jerry, for another very, very good question. And for your information, science is business. You know, we started by looking at what is our industry, okay? What is our industry? I don't know if I can quickly go back there. So here we said, what is our industry? Our industry is, we are in the knowledge industry, okay? And the consumers of this knowledge are pharmaceutical companies, they are solar cell manufacturers, they are, you know, name it, and so on and so forth. So we are in an industry. We are actually in business, even though you don't want to call it business, but we are in business. Now, it depends on what you want your knowledge to be used for. Let me come here. So on this slide, you see you can protect, you produce, and this relates to your question about maybe a pharmaceutical company holding a drug that would benefit people, okay? So you can choose, first of all, as an individual, to say that, you know, me, I don't want my asset to do business. I want it to benefit humanity. So you can decide to publish it as a book, you know, for everybody to use freely, or you can, you know, find other users. So that is good in Jerry. You can decide that, you know, my asset, I want it for public good, and I will make it available for free. That is good. But first and foremost, protect it. Because when you protect it, you also prevent others from taking it. So protection is good. And then the other thing is what I wanted to mention here on this one. You see, once you protect, so when you have, for instance, a patent, there's a clause in the patent laws which gives governments the powers to actually use your patent for the public good if they feel it is good. So there are laws that can prevent a company from withholding an intellectual asset which is of public good. So all patent laws have that. So we believe that all science should be used for the benefit of humanity. Like Mwalimu said, you know, that he wishes that our knowledge can be used for the benefit of society, and we all want that. So the governments have a way to manage that. They protect, they give you the rights, but they also want you to use it in a fair and equitable way. So Jerry, thank you so much for that wonderful question.
Great, thank you, Julius, for that. So we have 1 minute. Julius, are you okay to do one more round of questions?
It depends on whether members are willing to extend.
Okay.
I'm happy to have another round, but I'm also happy to stop if
okay.
Members would like to end here, is fine, but we can also have a question.
Okay, so this will be the final question. It's from the chat. It's from, pardon me, Yao Osai Asari, a beautiful name that I have just butchered. So the question is, if your IA is a business proposal submitted for funding, how can you ensure that it is protected so that no one uses it?
Yeah, that is wonderful. That is who, Yao? Yao.
Yes, Yao.
Yeah, thank you, Yao. Brilliant question. So you can see from this, flower that you can actually use your asset to write a grant proposal. And this is what you're saying. The question is, if you submit your grant, let's say to RSIF and or to another funder, you don't get a grant, how sure are you that somebody else will not take it? So again, I'll come back to this slide. That, you know, before you publish, again, maybe this one, okay? If you know if you keep this inventory very well, okay, keep this inventory very well, and then have a mechanism to protect your intellectual asset, this one. Once it is protected and you submit a grant, normally, and here at BioInnovate, we deal a lot with grants. So we tell you that, please tell us if this is confidential business information. So you can choose to tell us that, you know what, I'm disclosing to you this, but I wouldn't want you to share it with a third party. And we honor that. Or if you're exchanging it with somebody else, you can sign what we call a non-disclosure agreement, okay, between the two of you to say that I'm disclosing this for you only for purposes of doing our grant. I don't expect you to disclose it to a third party. So you sign a non-disclosure agreement. But having said that, once you have protected your intellectual asset, it's very difficult for somebody else to take it because you can take them to court. As you see here, the government has given you what we call intellectual property rights, the right to prevent anyone else from using the IP for a certain period of time. Now, if you don't protect it, then it's easy for somebody else to steal it. But if you protect it, it's easy to monitor. And how you monitor whether somebody has used your IA, of course, it's a difficult thing. We are in a global village. If you're here in Kenya, how do you know that a Chinese or an Indian in India, for instance, is not using your IA? So it's a very difficult thing, but at least it's a good practice to have these IAs protected in some form that is manageable at your institution. Yao, I hope that was a very nice question, Yao.
Great. Thank you, Julius. And that brings us to a close for this afternoon session. Thank you very much to the participants for
maybe Sagal.
Yes, Julius.
I just wanted to, on behalf of, I know I have also colleagues at BioInnovate who are participating, but as a gesture of goodwill, we would like to share with everyone who asked a question, brilliant questions. If you send Sagal your email and contacts, we shall send you this very beautiful BioInnovate memorabilia. It's a very nice notebook. So I have here 5 people, I think, plus Anson. So plus Anson, who shared with us his example. So we have 5 people. We shall mail this to you. Thank you, Sagal.
Thank you, Julius and the team at BioInnovate for that. So yes, this brings us to a close. Julius, that was an excellent webinar and a really inspiring way to end the year. So thank you for your time and your effort. To the participants, thank you very much for your engagement. We hope to see you next month. Happy New Year and upward and onward to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sagar. Happy New Year too.
Thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye.